I've lived in the same house my entire life. There's always been something suspicious about the basement. It's quite big, with two doors on each side, but it's dusty, beat up, and filled with random stuff. It's been like that forever, and we never really thought about fixing it since we only go down there to do laundry or store things. About a month ago, I adopted a cat. Everything was going well as she's a very sweet and affectionate girl who loves to play. One day, we were in the living room, and she was playing with her favorite ball, running around. The ball rolled down the basement stairs and she chased after it, grabbed it, and came back upstairs to continue playing. She started throwing the ball down the stairs and running after it, which is something she enjoys doing. She did this a few times, but on the sixth time, she meowed continuously and loudly, then came running back up without her ball, looking extremely scared. Her tail was fluffed up, which usually happens when she's scared. She continued to meow and then ran upstairs to hide for about 10 minutes. I knew something was wrong, so I decided to go downstairs. To my surprise, the two doors that were shut had somehow opened on their own. I didn't think much of it and just shut them, grabbed her ball, and tried to comfort her. A few days ago, I couldn't find my cat anywhere and decided to check the basement just in case she was in there. As I approached the basement, I saw the door in the right crack open by itself with my own eyes. I screamed and my cat came running down, hissing and meowing at the door. I quickly shut the door and ran upstairs with her. Since then, she hasn't gone near the basement, and she looks terrified whenever I go down there. This has happened a few times when the doors are shut, and I come home to find them open. It's very weird. I'm planning on putting a camera down there to prove it to my guardians, since they think I'm crazy. When I was 17 and still in high school, I joined the delayed entry program for the Marine Corps. Beforehand, I wasn't in the best shape, being a bit chubby but always somewhat muscular. However, cardio was the bane of my existence. I decided to start running daily, aiming for at least a mile to improve my cardio before shipping out to Parris Island. Toward the beginning of fall that year, I stopped using the high school track and started running on the bike trail down the street from my house. From my house, through the entire trail and back, it was about 3 miles. I ran this route daily or nightly for months without a worry. One night, just before I was about to head out for my run, my cousin Boomer, which is his nickname since he was about 6, showed up at my house. I told him he caught me at a bad time since I was just about to leave, but he decided to run with me because I had almost convinced him to enlist. We walked to the head of the trail that evening so he wouldn't get too tired before we started the full run. The end of the street near the trailhead was, and still is, nearly pitch black, except for a bright moon that night, which allowed us to see just a bit. As we got to the trail, we decided to walk past a yard connected to it. The gentleman who owned the house had just gotten a new dog, a big mastiff if I remember correctly. Boomer was always freaked out by dogs, and this particular dog had chased me about 50 yards a few weeks prior, probably because I came running past its backyard. I was explaining all this to Boomer, and we were almost in the clearing past the yard where the deeper woods start. However, mid-sentence, I caught something moving through the brush out of the corner of my eye, and stopped walking and talking, as did Boomer. We assumed it might be the aforementioned dog. What happened next was relatively quick, but felt much longer than it could have been, at least to me. We heard rustling in the trees and brush and saw something silver and tall. I turned to ask Boomer what he thought it was, but he had already turned tail and was making a Usain Bolt pace back the way we came. I took another quick glance and followed suit. I reached the top of the hill, where Boomer had stopped to wait for me. He had already put some distance between himself and whatever it was. We looked back down the hill and saw something standing, bipedally, in the middle of the trail. The moonlight shining through the trees was the only light we had to see what it was. We promptly ran the rest of the way back up the street to my house. To me, what was standing in the bike trail will always be a werewolf, and Boomer agrees. The few glimpses I caught definitely didn't seem human. Tall, silver in color, furry, and standing on two legs. The silhouette from the top of the hill, maybe 75 to 100 yards away, looked to have pointed ears as well. Boomer said he heard snarls, but by the time things were happening, I didn't hear much of anything. A couple years later, on a piece of land connected to the trail and less than 1.5 miles away, I found some strange footprints while hunting for shed antlers. I've never shared this story publicly, but it came up while my family was reminiscing, so I thought I'd share it here. During me and my brother's senior year, my family decided to move 45 minutes away. My brother and I didn't want to finish our senior year at a new school, so we chose to stay with friends and moved after we graduated. My mother, dad, and little sister loaded up the U-Haul, and the plan was for me to stay one more night at home after finishing work. My friends were supposed to help me pack after school. When I finished my shift at around 9 p.m. and got home, I was surprised to see my brother's car in the driveway. I entered the house and could clearly hear talking from his room. Assuming it was him and his girlfriend, I knocked on the door to tell him I was home and good night. However, when I knocked, the talking stopped completely, and there was no answer. Annoyed, I said, "Fine, be that way." Our rooms were right next to each other. I got ready for bed, showered, made a snack, went to my room, and decided to lock my door because I was annoyed and hurt by my brother's actions. I went to sleep, and around 2 a.m., I heard my doorknob shaking and the door being pushed on. I could hear talking but couldn't make out what was being said. I sat up and called my brother's name. "Logan? Hello?" I got up and ran to the door. As I swung it open, I heard his door slam shut. I yelled again, "Logan, what do you want? Hello? Why are you being a jerk?" I closed and locked my door and went back to sleep. In the morning, I woke up and went to school. My brother's car was gone, and his room was empty, suggesting he had also gone to school. On my walk there, I called my mother asking, "What's Logan's deal?" My mother asked what I meant, and I explained, "Last night, when I knocked on his door, he ignored me. And in the middle of the night, he tried to open my door, then ran back to his room when I opened my door. Why is he being like that?" My mother then informed me that she had spoken to my brother last night. He had spent the night at a friend's house and had called her that morning to say he was getting his car. Logan was not in the house at all last night. I was extremely shaken and enlisted my friend's parents to help me collect my things, explaining what had happened the previous night. When we entered the house, we were all completely shocked to find it ransacked. Our mattresses were cut down the middle, kitchen cabinets had their glass contents tossed onto the floor, our clothes were cut and destroyed, and my cat was hiding under the bed, completely shaken and unwilling to come out even for me, which was unusual since I had had him for 7 years at that point. Still, to this day, I have no idea who spent the night with me that night, and I fear what could have happened. As a 17-year-old girl, I dread to think what might have happened if I had opened the door and they had confronted me, or if I hadn't decided to lock my door because I was annoyed with my brother, and they had gained access while I was fast asleep. It still gives me chills to think that I spent an entire night with complete strangers.